111 as I record this. So basically, they gave me a huge chunk of information last night that, I've been channeling with God, but I've also been channeling with aliens from the 7th dimension. And actually, they're telling me that, like, anybody who channels right now, that's what they've been channeling with, is the 7th dimension aliens who are, like, helping seed this, like, reality right now and getting us back onto the correct timeline, because our timelines have been messed up by time manipulation, time travel, shit like that. But they are the ones who actually, because they realized that because they had to come back in time, because something starts happening over there in the 7th dimension. And then that ties to the Amy Eskridge stuff, right? Because I'm like, why? Because they've been slowly, like, giving me, this is how it works. They give me these, like, little breadcrumbs. So first they gave me the Amy Eskridge P47, P52 type stuff, right? Then they string together this other guy who's disclosing to the government right now about the exact time of a dissension period. And that guy also said something else that I saw too, but I can't remember what it was. There was something else that guy said that was accurate. Not in that it's in that interview, but not in that clip that I stitched. And then they tell me that they had to come back in time to figure out what was going on, and they had to give our government advanced technology to be able to get us to the right timeline, but they also couldn't tell our government that, like, they were giving them this advanced technology so they could, like, seed all this, like, media and all these, like, seeded transmissions to us so they could save us in the future. Because they left it behind for us light workers. Oh my god, this is, like, insane, guys. This is insane. So then they gave them this advanced technology, so they knew then at that moment that that's how they manipulated the timelines, is they had to give it to them without giving them knowledge of why they were giving them the technology, because then they wouldn't have used the technology. They wouldn't have, like, given us the phones. They wouldn't have given us the iPods. They wouldn't have given us the computers. They wouldn't have all this stuff. And obviously, this is, like, a whole global thing, because TikTok comes from China. That's where that app comes from. And so they've been, like, giving technology to, like, different parts of the world, right? So again, this is, like, a global situation. It's not just, like, our government that they're in cahoots with. It's all governments. And they've been in close contact with governments for 100 years now. And, like, I mean, I've known that for a while, because I've watched a lot of UFO documentaries, obviously. Like, I started watching UFO documentaries when I was, like, 17 years old. You know, like, I really got into it, though, after I did, like, psychedelics and stuff, is when I really started to get into, like, UFO stuff and the New Earth in 2020, and then the pandemic hit, and then that's when I got onto New Earth, was during the pandemic. So they've been slowly, you know, leading me down this path, and that's what they've been doing for a bunch of us. They've been slowly leading us all down the same exact path, and they've been, like, channeling with you to lead you down this path. But they've shown me that it's, like, literally designed so intricately, like, to the point where, like, when I was, like, 13 years old, like, they gave my mom, like, the intuition to go buy my pink, like, iPod Nano, like, that kind of stuff. Like, that's how much they've actually been, like, having to, like, interfere in all of our lives, is what they're telling me. Like, this timeline, they said we wouldn't even have televisions right now if they didn't come intervene. Like, at this point in time, we would not have television still. That's what they're telling me. So that's, like, why I wanted to make this video, is they're showing me, like, that when they come down here, they're going to show us, like, the alternative timelines. They're going to show us, like, what timeline we would have been on if they did not come intervene. Like, all the stuff that, like, we would have, like, not had. Like, Hollywood wouldn't even exist without alien intervention. And also, they're going to show, like, how, like, this is going to bring duality to this situation as well, as, like, because, like, it's going to help us kind of, like, really, like, fuse out the fire of, like, these psychopaths who, like, fucked with time and, like, did all this shit to us and blah, 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 and manipulated all this stuff. It's like, we're gonna, like, look and see, like, oh, well, we wouldn't have had Hollywood. We wouldn't have television. We wouldn't have had all these movies and shows and all of these, like, beautiful things that actually added a lot of beauty to our lives. Like, we wouldn't have had this technology that allowed us to, like, live out our dreams. Like, there's, like, a lot of stuff that, so, like, that's the thing, because, like, it's gonna be really hard to accept the fact that like these deletes were fucking with the timelines, that they fucked with the timeline so bad that they like literally put us on a timeline of like fucking patriarchal religion and like suppression and oppression and literally nuclear fallout, basically. Like the worst case fucking timeline, which again is the polarity. That's what God's telling me. That's what ascension is. And then they, you know, had to come back in time and like give us all this technology so then they could get us back on the right timeline, so then the seventh dimension doesn't collapse. And that's the point in time when they realize they're in ascension, is when they come back in time and they realize they have to give all this stuff over, and they're like, oh my God. And then that's when that's like the duality and the omnipotence of God in the seventh dimension, is like that, you know, they realize like, oh, we simultaneously cause this issue, but we also solve the issue. So like this was always meant to happen, because this is what happens in descension and ascension periods of the planet, is that there's always this like level of polarity that happens. But in the seventh dimension, it's actually different. It's like, so that's what's interesting, is like we need to talk about that. Because ours is very prominent. It's obviously like these deletes and this elite society that's running this world. And then there's people who like have no idea what's going on. In the seventh dimension, it seems like it's a very peaceful like society. Like it doesn't even seem like they're in any type of collapse at all. It just seems like their reality starts to collapse. Like that's what's weird, is like I don't know how, like, so it doesn't seem like we're really going to be going through like ascension and descension periods like the same way with the levels of extremes. It seems like I don't know. That's why I'm like, we have to like, there's just questions. This has just caused more questions for me than answers. I mean, this has given me a big chunk of answers, and it makes a lot of sense now. You know, and they also are telling me this because they don't want us to be afraid of when they come down here. Like, they don't want us to think they're like these, like, P-52, P-47s. That's why they're showing us that right now. To show us, like, that's... When Amy Eskridge was talking about them, she talks about how they're from the alternative timeline of the fallout of this world. So that's what we would look like if we were, like, fallen out. And, like, so that's why they're seeding our subconscious with that right now. Because they want us to be, like, a little scared and afraid of, like, what aliens look like. Because then, like, when they come down, like, we're going to be way less afraid. Because obviously they're going to look like us. Because they're not from the Fallout timeline. They're from, like, the timeline that we, you know, that our future incarnation. And so they're, like, it's totally different. Like, so that's why they're saying, like, they're, like, they're telling me this information that it's us from the seventh dimension too, because it's not that far from where we're at. And again, so we're not afraid of what they look like, because they're not going to look funky or weird. And they keep emphasizing that to me over and over and over. And again, why they made Lilo and Stitch, like, kind of with, like, these scary, funky looking aliens. So then, like, when they come down, like, that's obviously, like, not what they look like. But they're like, technically that is what we look like, but we're not going to show you that incarnation. They're like, we're going to show you the human incarnation of this planet in this dimension. Now, they're saying in the future of our lives, they will show us other dimensional species. That is not how they're going to start us off, because again, we have brains, we have nervous systems, all this stuff. That they're taking much care. That's like the whole reason why it took them so fucking long, they're saying, is because of our brains and our nervous systems. They're like, they're very tricky. They said while they were doing this, they collapsed a lot of timelines. So I'm like, bro, this shit's so fucking intricate. I'm like, that's why they're like, guys, you're literally on vacation down here, basically. They're like, wait till you get to the seventh dimension. It's a fucking nightmare shit show. Like right now, it's like, I know it feels like a nightmare shit show because like all this crazy shit, but it's like, really, we're kind of like on a cruise, basically, because we don't have to do shit. They're bringing all the technology. They're like basically doing all this for us. They're helping us out here, you know, kind of a thing. But they're like, up there, we had to do all the work, which is really just not up there. It's next to us. But, you know, also they show it to me like above, because again, that's how we reference things down here. So it's like, technically it's not true, but we do have to like use human language and stuff, you know. So anyway, I'm getting more and more information on that, so that's interesting.